Hey everybody, welcome back to Midwest Marksman. My name is Andrew, and what you're looking at here is a Pinty PCP. This one happens to be chambered in 177. It is called the Vanguard Classic. It's a very lightweight synthetic tube style PCP. I'm going to be shooting some H&N Field Target trophies. These are 8.64s. I've already done a little bit of testing with the iron sights, some group testing. I'll switch over to a red dot and just see what kind of improvements that may or may not make. I've already done also some optics testing with a scope from, let's see, I used the Thor 2-12 at that point. And so I'm just kind of comparing the three ways that I might mount an optic on here or how I might shoot it. I am using my own cheek bag just because I like to store pellets in there. It's handy for a hunting style gun like that. Which is specifically what I'm going to be focusing on for this review. Is this is a hunting style gun. And then I've got a moderator on the end from Terry over at Buckrail. Links are in the comments, highly recommended. Let's go ahead and throw 5 here at 35. 5 at 35, and then I'll come up to the target and we'll take a peek. Now, before we go down range and take a look, I'm going to tell you a couple things about it. And this is really going to be a bare bones review because I want you to get the idea of what I think this is for, which is hunting. I think it's a hunting gun, not necessarily a bench gun. It's not set up for that. It doesn't have the equipment for that, like a forward bipod or anything of that nature. It doesn't have a Picatinny piece or an Arca piece built into it. It doesn't have Picatinny on top, but it does have dovetail. It does come with iron sights that are definitely usable, and I have taken my iron sight from a front mount and put it to the rear and then added a red dot. The red dot is easy to come off if I need to transfer it to another gun for any reason. And this has a set screw. It is not your elevation screw. It is the one ahead of that, a very small, I think it's like the 2.5 millimeter or whatever smaller. Maybe it's 1.5 millimeter. I can't remember that size set screw. So I can set that, and it's all the way to the rear, and it gives me a long sight radius, like quite a long sight radius actually. And I don't think that they're gonna move. I think they're okay enough. They're not robust, but they're not wimpy, somewhere in between. The stock itself seems to be just fine, other than the fact that if you wanted to put an optic on it, it's not set up for that either. Setting up like a scope is gonna set you up high. This has a dip and a drop down. It's just better set up for kids with red dots or irons. That's my opinion about it. If you like to do a chin weld or a neck weld to get up to your optic, then go ahead, put an optic up here, but you're going to need a forward cantilever more than likely. That's okay. Again, this is a budget PCP, and it's a pretty affordable one. I think it's a great price. Moving on from the stock, length of pull is just fine for me, the way that it's set up here, because I don't really need eye relief. I can get into it, but it's comfortable enough. The trigger is good. It's actually good. I like the trigger. It's, I don't know if it's aluminum, what it is, but it feels pretty good. It does have mush, and when it comes to PCPs, I've kind of learned to expect that with some, but it has a predictable breaking point, and it's not heavy. Some of the problems with bullpups and bullpup designs that I've used in the past is that they just have a linkage and they have an extra piece that, I don't know, it adds to the process of pulling, and I don't like the pre-travel, I don't like the brake, I don't like the over-travel on some of those PCP bullpups. They can be gross. This one is not that way. This is a decent trigger. I feel very comfortable when I pull the trigger. I feel confident, and so kudos to Pinty for getting that squared away. The safety is not integral to the trigger. The safety is forward. It's a much more Americanized design. It is forward, kind of like a 1022 cross bolt style safety. Again, not attached to the trigger, not in the trigger housing the way that some airgun companies do. This is forward, and it feels a little bit more American. I forgot to mention with the stock, there's a light design. It's very, very small, but the goal is to keep this lightweight and not heavy, which is why I have removed the scope that I had on here. Went back to iron sights and a red dot. There is an integral, let's call it, I don't know, it is kind of a barrel band. That's what I would call it, I suppose. There's a barrel band, it wraps around the tube, it wraps around the barrel, and it has 2 locking nuts. And on top of that, they've attempted to hybrid and extend the 3/8 or 11 millimeter, whatever it actually is, and so that you have a longer bridge here for optics. Would I cross that bridge? You know, it actually looks relatively square to me. I have a hard time with that because of like ARs and such. Usually with ARs, we don't cross the bridge, right? You don't put optics mounted forward unless it's a particular kind of system. Like Darkstorm Industries has a particular kind of system where I can truss the bridge and mount things forward. I don't know. This is probably not going to move. It's just about the actual QC and whether that's level or if it's going to cant your rings and torque on your scope. That's just something you have to consider. With airgun stuff, you're not going to worry about recoil, at least. But will it level out and be exact? I don't know. On mine, it actually looks like it probably would be just fine. Extending it over with my scope mount that I did previously, you know, I only extended a little bit and it was fine. So you have like aluminum or metal, probably aluminum on this side, and then polymer on the other. You have 2 set screws holding in the barrel on top, and my set screws are a little wonky. It's not a straight drill and tap, but I am 100% sure they're actually holding the barrel in tight enough. I'm not really worried about that, and just something I noticed with the QC, not really a big deal. The barrel is actually going to get a little bit fatter. It's going to reduce when it comes down to the barrel band and into the inlet, but it gets a little thicker, and then towards the end, you're going to have your iron sight held in a polymer attachment, which is affixed. Again, I don't think this is going to move, and if it did, I would just glue it. And then there's a reduction again for the moderator that it comes with. The moderator that comes with, which you're going to see in the other footage, that's a decent moderator. I'm really surprised. It did what it's supposed to do. It made it more comfortable. It's not going to be as good as Terry's. That's why Terry's is on here, but I like it. I just noticed that because of the design and the run out that it has, it's not going to work on other devices very well unless it has a thinner profile and not some sort of blade in the way. So for me, you know, I've got a little standoff on Terry's device here. With the factory one, it runs right up to the iron sight and it looks good. I thought that was a nice feature, that it looks pretty good. But yeah, it's not going to be really cross compatible with other barrels unless they are a thinner contour. When you're looking at the tube here, I've been getting, I'm going to say around 25 decent, consistent shots at 50 yards. At 25, it's less noticeable, which again, hunting gun, let's say 25, I'm getting 30 shots. So roughly about 3 magazines. And the max pressure you're going to get in this tube is 250 bar. It's pretty lightweight, it's pretty thin and small. So no, that's not a huge shot count, but you have to remember with something like this, if it's hunting, you know, focused, it's not a bench gun for sitting down and doing 70 shots or putting a big bottle on here. It's for walking around, getting convenient and consistent, quiet, accurate shots. And I think this is going to do hunting just fine for me. In fact, dare I say it, I think this one I prefer over the rest of the Pinty lineup that I've had so far, with the exception of maybe the Pinty Buster. I really like that one with the stock kit. I've already shown some teasers on that. Oh, and I should not forget, the port, it does require the stem to be put in. This one is just a twister, so you can twist it to line it up and twist it to keep it clean. Be careful about that. Make sure that you don't get stuff in here or forget and have this twist on you and suddenly you've got debris or grass or whatever sand getting inside. That would be a real problem. I always make sure to twist it so it's up and down and it closes off the port. With time, we'll find out how effective that is. I have not added a Picatinny stud to this. I don't plan to unless I want to put in 2 swivel studs on this to carry it around, which isn't a half bad idea. Tapping this is possible if you remove it from the stock, and I probably will do this now that I think of it. I'll probably remove the stock altogether and put in some sling swivel studs, because as a hunter, this is so lightweight, it's convenient. It's lighter than a lot of my 22s would be actually, so really cool. Let's go ahead and take a look at that target downrange now. All right, first up, you're looking at the iron sight target. So I was a little high and left. There's actually, I was with a different pellet, but it's very similar and actually made by the same people. So the grouping itself, I still trust. A little high and left, but don't worry about that. Just the group is what I want you to pay attention to. Here's the red dot, again, 35 yards. That is about 1 inch. I'd say it's probably 1 1/8 inches actually. So for 5 shots, with the red dot, that's not horrible. I'm okay with that. That's going to get a pass for sure. And then there's with a magnified optic shooting on about, I think it was 8 power is what I was shooting on at 35 yards. And that's a just fine group. That is 1 inch. Definitely you can see better, you can do better with some of the Vanguard or the Pinty lineup. But this doesn't depress me, and I'm not upset with it, especially because this is such a lightweight gun with like pretty good features at the price point, which is an extremely budget-friendly price point. All right, I'm just sitting on a hill right now. My backyard, it's pretty calm, so I'm not going to use a microphone for this. Got a handful of targets out here, all the way out past 175 yards actually. But I'm just sitting with some iron sights on the Classic here. Nice and lightweight. I just love the way that this is so lightweight, easy to carry around the yard and all that. But I think what it would be good to do is do a few shots with the can on, with the can off, now that it's very, very quiet and I don't have a microphone, so you can kind of get a better feel. It's never going to be perfect, but a better feel. First though, time for some Oberto. And what is this? Ultra Sunrise? All right, Sunrise. I'm going to use some H&N pellets from Natchez. If you haven't checked out Natchez yet, powder burners or air guns, those sort of supplies, that's the place I go. And I'm a huge fan of Natchez because of their $5 or free shipping depending on the time of the year and the sale. Really cool company, check them out. This is without the included can on. And let's go, I'm just gonna go into the weeds to start with. Okay. How about over here? It's not bad. It's not exactly backyard friendly for those of you who live like city-ish limits or just have closer neighbors in the country and you want to be totally quiet, or you're hunting and you want to be totally quiet. There is a significant difference in my estimation. Let's go back over here. And at a distance. Yeah, I would say that the difference is pretty noticeable. It's going to make a difference for me in hunting, and especially if you live close to neighbors and stuff like that. That report, it just doesn't put out as much air pressure sound. It's much quieter, and it doesn't add a lot to the overall length. As you can tell, the package is still pretty small and very lightweight. I've already said that the trigger is not bad, but let's just do a few pulls and see what I get out of it. Not bad at all. That was 1 pound, 3.7 ounces. Let's enter that and do another. £1 pound, 4.1 ounces. £1 pound, 4.6 ounces. So obviously there's some variability between the way I'm pulling, but we're looking at 1 pound, 4.2 ounces. That is not bad at all. It's actually a better trigger than a lot of PCPs at the price point. Maybe all the other PCPs at this price point. They just tend not to have such a good trigger. So comfortable with the trigger, happy with that. I always prefer 1 pound or less, but 1.4 is pretty darn close, and I'm not going to complain about it, especially at the price point. So controllable, allows me to pull the trigger and get a clean break about when I think it should. A little bit of pre-travel, a little bit of over-travel for sure. And the break itself is not exactly crispy, but I would say it's fairly predictable, and it allows me to let the round go when I think it should. And that's what a trigger's supposed to do, right? Something else worth noting here on that trigger is just that, if I can zoom in a little bit, this has some adjustments. There's actually, it's going to be hard to see inside. Maybe you can see that behind the trigger I don't know if that's some sort of over travel adjustment, but then there is one that you can reach there, and that's going to be probably your pre-travel. That's going to line up with that hole. And so I've got mine set all the way back, just so it still cocks and shoots safely. But that's what I've done, is just adjust that now at this point. Another thing I did just for fun was to add this piece of Arca Picatinny, took it out of the chassis and added that on there because I like doing that. And then in a second, I'm actually going to go throw on a swivel stud through the rear. If it's going to be a hunter, then it's also going to be a plinker for me, more than likely. Something I can walk around with and throw at targets every once in a while. I've got my microphone off just so you can probably hear these impacts. I have a target at 60 yards. It's like a little bigger than hand size. I think you can see it. It's yellow down there. Let's see if I can land a couple on there, how many shots it takes me to hit it. There it is. Well, that's not too bad, actually. Fairly happy with that. There is a small target down there. You'll be able to hear it, I'm pretty sure. That's a 4-inch target, freehand. Let's see how we do on that one. That's an impact. Very nice. All right, a little further. If I step over here, got a 4-inch target at about 70 yards. All right, not too bad. So hopefully with my mic off, you can hear that. After the last 3 MIGs, I am down towards the bottom, so the shots are going to start to show more standard deviation, all that sort of thing. I would still take this gun at 10-15 yards on a rabbit, which I probably will pretty soon here. It has plenty of power. Depending on the pellet and your shot placement, your accuracy, your steadiness, these can be really effective. That's why I think I'll probably end up throwing a swivel stud front and back, is because this is affordable. It's super lightweight. It's reasonably accurate. It's not their most accurate gun, I don't believe, but I'm just not fighting this gun because of a decent trigger and a reasonable setup. You know, the way that it's positioned for me now is balanced pretty well. I don't feel like the gun is rear heavy. I don't feel like the trigger poundage is so, you know, oppressive that you just can't get a consistent break on a target. That really makes me happy. You know what? See what we got here. I've got a couple shots left on the table. I'm gonna grab one more MIG with the last of the pressure, and let's try at 102 yards. We'll see if we can get a couple on a 102-yard target. It's about a 7-inch target. All right, 7-inch target, about 100 yards from where I'm standing, freestanding. Cool. What do we got for pressure? Oh, enough for 2 more shots, maybe. There we go. Is that 3 in a row? I think that was. That's 3 in a row. Pretty cool. Well, again, that's the Pinty Vanguard Classic. I approve of it if you're going into it understanding what this is and what it isn't. If you're looking for more of a bench rest model or something that brings a higher level of precision, more shot count, more features, modern features like Picatinny or studs, you're going to look at the Thumper or some of the new releases that they've had in 2026. Those will probably fit the bill better for you, but for me and the things I do with PCPs, this actually works just fine. Yes, I did spend some time with this and an optic mounted. Now I went with the Thor 2-12, and this is actually a pretty neat 2-12 when it comes to up and coming optics. Just seeing what's out there at budget prices, that is not too bad. Huge amounts of internal elevation. I'm actually pretty impressed with it. It's one of the things I'm more impressed with the parent company and And just the production of this, it is a next step above some of the other productions that they have. Really great reticle, tracks pretty decent, and I would say the illumination is functional. All of those features with a compact 2 to 12. There's just not many good 2 to 12 optics out there. There's a few more than there used to be, and I'm happy that this is one of them that's within reach. It's pretty affordable, and it has a 0 stop as well as revolution indicators with multiple revolutions. I can get a lot of internal travel out of the scope, so that's fun to match with a 177. Is it practical? Probably not, because I'm looking at a gun that essentially has I'm going to say 20 to 25 shots per fill, where I need to go back and fill it up again so I can stay consistent. Now in hunting, I would probably take those 20 shots pretty confidently, 20 shots. And then if I'm playing steel, shooting at stuff, maybe up to 30 shots. It could be 3 magazines if the weather is just right. If it's a little bit cold, I'm going to guess that you're not going to get quite 30. So it's a very small reservoir, but it's light, and that's the point of the air rifle. Is this was supposed to be light and lightweight and not cumbersome, and relatively quiet, affordable to shoot. And so that's the whole thing. Is first, economy. It's cheap. It's very affordable. It's a great entry-level price point. And then beyond that, it's light. It's easy for an adult to carry around or a kid to carry around and shoot and navigate with. It's not hard. It's quiet. So it's just like hitting all the boxes for people getting into PCPs or just needing some sort of a little varminter to keep around that you want to keep pressurized. You don't want to have to pump up something. Like I got tennis elbow really bad, and it's quite debilitating after a while. You really can't use your arm the way you used to, and I've got carpal tunnel. And I just sound like old sack of potatoes right now, but I'm beat up, and I have trouble with some of the brake barrels that are really, really stiff after, if I'm trying to shoot 50 shots in a setting, eventually the motion, not the weight, but the motion itself hurts. And so this allows me to just run that thing back and forth, go pump it up, run it back and forth. And if I'm just hunting, I don't need the optic. So actually what I am going to do is take that optic off there. I will tell you, it did not improve my group size significantly. That's not a fault of the optic. I think we're just seeing the limits of what this budget gun can do, and the optic was fun. I was able to more precisely see what I was aiming at, which is fun. That's cool. But inside of 50 yards, my groups on paper did not get better. So actually, I'm going to go back to either red dot or iron sights. And when it comes to the irons, quote unquote irons, they're polymer and they do have fiber optics built in. So they should, sorry, my camera died on me there for a second. The sights should stand out. They're, pretty bright. You get the green in the rear and kind of an orange or red. I would say orange in the front. And that contrast is significant for me. As long as I can see that front sight post on irons, I still do okay with them. And actually it's really fun because it's a slim line rifle. When you remove, like I put this stock on here, their cheek riser, I should say, and then I've put on a 34 millimeter tube optic, which is, relatively heavy. As soon as I take that off of this thing, it's back to being really slim, really light, and easy to navigate and carry around. Even my little kids can hold it and pull the trigger and run that. Quite smooth on the action, not difficult. And the magazines load and feed every time so well. That's one of the things I want to give kudos on. I'm really happy to see that the magazines never ever give me trouble. I've never had magazine trouble with one of these. They're just very consistent. That's what they look like right there. Easy to index and rotate. And I chose to zero with some of these Norma Golden Trophy FTs, and they are, let's see, what was the grain weight on that? That's 8.4 grains. So the 8.4 grains from 0 to 50 yards is what I was achieving some of the best results with. But play around and just see what works best for your application, the way that you're going to use the gun. Maybe an optic is necessary for you, maybe a vision trouble, or maybe you want to use lighter, even lighter weight pellets, or maybe some of the lead-free pellets. You're going to have to play around with that. I'm just saying in my setting, for what I'm attempting to do with this, it looks like about the 8.2, 8.4 grain pellets were working the best out of this, and still pretty quiet. This thing is just so light and wieldy. I can walk around my yard and shoot chipmunks and stuff, and I don't really feel like I have to have a sling with it. It's just pretty easy to carry around, not cumbersome at all. And still has the power. I can knock out chipmunks and squirrels and rabbits. Within 30 yards, I feel really comfortable with the first two. Rabbits, I probably would say 15 yards and in because it's a 177. But the thing is wieldy. It's light. It's easy to hit targets with, you know, relatively accurate for what it is. Just a neat, it's a neat little setup.